Welcome to Car Help Q&A. My name is Shari. I'm a consultant who helps consumers with their car issues. And for this video, I'm going to be answering your car questions from the comments. And if you want to have your question answered in a future Q&A video, just leave your question in the comment section below and I'll try to answer it next time. Let's get right into it, starting with the first question. I'm looking at Ford, Dodge, Toyota pickups, mid-sized and full-size, short bed, four-door. Comparing diesel and gas also. I would appreciate your take on the best vehicle of your choice. Please and thank you. Videos are really helpful. Linda. Okay, Linda, so when it comes to trucks, my typical go-to recommendations for a mid-sized truck are the Toyota Tacoma and the Nissan Frontier. Both of these trucks have excellent reputations for reliability. They're really well made, very durable. They have fantastic resale value, especially the Tacoma, so it's not going to depreciate too much over time. And they're both well-priced trucks that offer good value for the money. So you really can't go wrong choosing between those two trucks. Now, when it comes to full-size trucks, this is a little bit tricky because, to be perfectly honest, all full-size trucks have their own issues in different ways. They all have significant issues when it comes to engines, transmissions, and so on, and none of them are quite perfect. My previous go-to recommendation for a full-size truck was the Toyota Tundra. However, the current generation Tundra, which switched from a V8 engine to a new twin-turbo V6 engine, has been experiencing some very significant reliability issues. In fact, Toyota has even issued a major recall on just over 100,000 vehicles with the twin-turbo V6 engine because these engines were apparently manufactured with some debris inside the engine which was not cleaned out properly, and this is leading to some engines failing, with main bearing failure resulting in a complete engine replacement or a engine rebuild, which is obviously extremely serious. Now, hopefully Toyota addresses the issue and it's not going to be a concern anymore. Right now the recall affects 2022 and 2023 Tundras, and of course this is very uncharacteristic of Toyota. Typically they have fantastic reliability, but it just goes to show you that sometimes with modern vehicles, which can have a lot of complicated technology, especially drivetrain technology to reduce emissions, improve fuel economy, sometimes you run into issues that need time to be sorted, and that's the case here. So if I were buying a full-size truck at the moment, I'd probably buy a lightly used 2020 or 2021 used Tundra, the previous generation, which are incredibly reliable trucks and very safe choices to go with. Okay, moving on to the next question. Can you tell me if the 2023 Honda CR-V is reliable? Why I ask about this is that I'm seeing a lot of comments and complaints about oil dilution problems with the non-hybrid engines, and it does not seem to have been fixed. Is this true? Okay, so just a little bit of background here. When Honda introduced the previous generation CR-V back in 2017, they used a new 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, again to reduce emissions, improve fuel economy, and this engine did have some issues, especially with oil dilution, where the engine oil would mix with the fuel, causing all kinds of serious problems. Now, fortunately, Honda did introduce some fixes and updates over the years, especially by 2019, and it did dramatically improve the problem. But it didn't eliminate it entirely. You still hear complaints about oil dilution on the newer 1.5 turbo engines. And from what I gather, it typically happens to those who are not keeping up with their maintenance. You really do have to do oil changes on a very frequent basis with these engines. And it also mostly applies to those who mostly do short distance driving, say less than 10 kilometers or 5 or 6 mile distances, where the engine is not able to warm up properly to operating temperature. And typically that's where you see the problems happen the most. So to be on the safe side, make sure that you do your proper maintenance, change the oil frequently, and that you do long distance driving to warm up the engine properly. That should help reduce the likelihood of these issues. Or if you just want to be on the safe side, avoid the engine altogether and just buy the CR-V Hybrid, which has a non-turbo engine. It's completely reliable, extremely well designed, and you get much better fuel economy too. So that would be my choice. Okay, moving to the next question now. I love the Q&A format here, Shari. I really trust your opinion. Well, thank you very much. My question is it safe to buy a Hyundai Kia vehicle with their questionable quality and shaky customer service? I have heard many YouTubers recommend them. Great question. It is true that Hyundais and Kias are typically praised by YouTubers all the time for their amazing designs, the technology, and the attractive pricing and so on. But I often say in all of my videos, whenever I review a Hyundai or a Kia, I remind the viewers that these companies do have a very significant history when it comes to having serious issues, major recalls that are not comparable to anything else. For those who don't know, both of these companies have had terrible reliability concerns with their 4-cylinder engines, specifically the 2-liter and 2.4-liter engines in a variety of vehicles manufactured between 2011 all the way up to 2021. And several million vehicles with these engines have been recalled. And it's not uncommon for owners to experience issues including major oil consumption, engine failure due to rod bearings, due to connecting rods, and other internal engine issues, piston rings, and dealerships have been replacing these engines like crazy over the past several years. So it's a very serious problem. It's even led to me not recommending anyone buy a used Hyundai or Kia that has one of these engines because, in my opinion, it's just too high of a risk. Now, when it comes to the new vehicles, fortunately, Hyundai and Kia have now moved on and they've now introduced their Smart Stream engine family, which is a completely new lineup of engines. And so far, there have not been any reliability concerns. But anyone who does buy a new one, ultimately, you are taking a leap of faith. You are hoping that you're not going to see a repeat of these major problems that happened in the past. Is it a gamble worth taking? Well, ultimately, that's up to the buyer. But in my opinion, I would only buy one of these vehicles under warranty just to be on the safe side. Fortunately, they have a very long warranty, so buy it for a few years, own it, and then before the warranty expires, I would personally return it just to be on the safe side. So that's my take on that. Okay, next question. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and very informative content as usual. Looking for a 7-seat SUV, house pre-owned Kia Sorento for the long run, as my driveway is narrow. Thank you. Well, I just went into the details of the risks when buying a used Kia with the 4-cylinder engine, so not going to repeat it again here, but yeah, basically that's the risk you're taking when you buy a used Sorento. I would not personally recommend one that has the 2-liter or 2.4-liter engines because of the history of problems. So if you really want to buy one, make sure that you have one that's under warranty and get yourself a good extended warranty just to protect yourself. Otherwise, just consider a different vehicle that's a little bit more safer when it comes to reliability. Something similar to the Sorento that's a 7-seater, my number one choice would be a Toyota Highlander. Very safe vehicle when it comes to reliability, very spacious, although it is a little bit more wider than the Sorento, I believe. So if you have a narrow driveway, could potentially be an issue, but it's not really far off. If it is an issue, the only other 7-seater I can think of that is narrower would be a Mitsubishi Outlander, maybe the Outlander plug-in hybrid. Very good vehicle. It does have a 3rd row of seats, even though they are very tight. But if you have a very narrow driveway and it really can't fit, that's all that really comes to mind. Okay, next question. Great advice. I'm really interested in Mazda and looking for something under $15,000. Which model and year would be best? I want something that'll last a long time. So Mazda makes very reliable vehicles for the most part, and what I really like about them is that they're typically less expensive than a comparable Honda or Toyota, which have very high resale value, and that's really what's attractive about buying a used Mazda, because you're going to be able to buy something that's newer and lower mileage for the same amount of money, and they're very good cars. So for a budget of under $15,000, I would recommend a Mazda 3, specifically the generation between 2014 up to 2018. This was a fantastic generation, very reliable cars, well made, fuel efficient, and just really well rounded. You can get it as a sedan or a hatchback, so a lot of options there. If you need something bigger and more spacious, you could also get a Mazda 6, same age range. It's basically the same car, but larger, more spacious. And then my third choice would be a used Mazda CX-5 between 2013 to 2017. Great small SUV, very reliable, but typically SUVs tend to be a lot more expensive on the used market, and you're not going to be able to find one that's quite as newer and lower mileage. So my number one choice would be the Mazda 3. Very good used vehicle. All right, next question. Hello, Shari. Love the channel. I was wondering if Toyota will be bringing out any more Prime models. Would love to see a Camry Prime. Great question. So those who don't know, the Prime models are Toyota's plug-in hybrid vehicles. And right now they only have two available. There's the RAV4 Prime and the Prius Prime. And both of those vehicles are manufactured in Japan. And that's where the supply comes from, which is why the supply is somewhat limited for those two vehicles. And my understanding is that Toyota is working on making one of their plants in the United States. They're getting it all tooled up and ready to manufacture plug-in hybrids. So that's going to happen in the next couple of years, I believe by around 2026 and 2027. And when that happens, they're going to be able to manufacture a lot more plug-in hybrids. And my guess is that that's when you're going to start seeing more Toyota Prime models introduced into the market. Whether there'll be a Camry version, who knows? It's a possibility, but I would expect to see more plug-in hybrids within the next 2 to 3 years or so. All right, next question. I learn a lot from your videos. Could you make a comparison of leasing or financing a car by considering the lowest budget of the buyer? Let's say a student with a $2,000 monthly income to pay for everything, reducing the amount of affordability to pay no more than $400 per month. And also I heard of the 24-10 rule, meaning 20% down payment, 4 years of financing, and spending no more than 10% of your income on all your car expenses. Okay, so excellent question. However, I don't have an easy answer for this one. $400 a month to pay for all your car expenses, your car payment, fuel, maintenance, insurance, that is a very small budget, and realistically, you don't have the income to be buying a brand new car, not even a used car for the most part. I mean, cars are very expensive, and when you calculate how much the total price of a car costs over a 4-year loan, which is what's recommended here with the 24-10 rule, something I definitely advocate for, you basically can't afford the car. So you need to earn more income and have more money in order to afford a car comfortably. So I would probably just wait for a little while, save your money, and when you have some cash set aside, buy a really good, affordable used car, something for under $10,000 in cash, and just avoid financing until you have a much, much higher income where you can comfortably afford it. And that's a fantastic question, because that brings me to the next message from my sponsor, OMVIC, a message about financing. So for those who don't know, OMVIC is Ontario's vehicle sales regulator, and they have some fantastic financing tips to share. So if you are considering financing a vehicle, there's a few really important things that you need to keep in mind. Always approach your own financial institution to understand what your financing options are and what the interest rates are for a car loan if you qualify. And if you are going to get financing through the dealership, make sure you check the credit application and understand who your credit application is going to. Make sure you verify that all the information on the application is accurate, and make sure that the dealership shares all the available options with you so that you know what the loan options are and you know what the interest rates are, so that you can pick the one that's best for your needs. And another really important tip is try not to finance a vehicle over a really, really long loan. I know that loans of 84 months and even 96 months are becoming more common, but when you take a long time to pay off a car, you are increasing the likelihood of having negative equity, where you owe more money than what the car is worth. And that could land you into trouble down the road. So when possible, try to finance a car over a shorter term just to be on the safe side. And if you want to have more really useful tips just like this, you can always visit the OMVIC website. I'll put more information in the description below. Okay, moving on to the next question now. Hello, I'm looking into getting a 2025 Q5 Audi Sportback. I've never owned one. This will be my last car in my life, and I like the body style on them, and I've read reviews and they were good. What do you think of Audis in general? Are they worth the price? Okay, interestingly, when I speak to clients who contact me, a lot of them are senior clients, and they typically use this line where I expect this to be my last car. It's funny when people say that, because who knows? It might not be your last car. It could be your second last, your third last. I mean, people could be surprised. You could live a lot longer than you might expect. So try not to say that and try and be more optimistic. But in any case, when it comes to the Audi Q5, the thing with Audis is that they're very well designed cars. They're really beautiful. They drive great. They have fantastic technology. I really understand why so many people love them and why a lot of reviewers give them positive reviews. The thing with them is that they are a higher risk vehicle to own for long-term ownership. It's typically when the warranty expires, when they're more than 4 or 5 years old. That's when you start to see more issues happen with them. And when they do have reliability issues, they're extremely expensive to repair. And the older the vehicle gets, the more common the repairs become. It becomes just one thing after another, and the bills really start to pile up. And this is why older Audis and other similar luxury vehicles don't hold their value well over time. They're just less desirable to buy when they're much older, because a lot of consumers are aware of this. They know they're extremely expensive. So my recommendation for Audi is to typically lease them for 3 to 4 years under the warranty period, and then just return them and move on to another vehicle. It's the safest way to own them, and it reduces your risk. If you really want to own one past the warranty period for say 5 or 6 years, make sure you get a good Audi extended warranty to protect yourself, just to be on the safe side. Okay, moving on to the next question. What are your overall thoughts on a 2016 Range Rover Sport V6 with around 80,000 miles for $20,000? Okay, I have a very straightforward answer to this. Absolutely no. Range Rovers are very deceiving because you see them on the market for a really attractive low price that makes them seem like they're affordable. But what a lot of buyers don't realize is that you can quickly spend what you paid for the vehicle in repairs in almost no time at all. They're extremely expensive vehicles to repair. Almost everything that they need can be a few $1,000s, and the repairs will add up. And they're just not the most reliable vehicles, especially when you're buying an older one with higher mileage. It's just going to be one thing after another, and you're going to end up with a money pit and regret your decision more likely than not. So no, I don't recommend buying a used Range Rover. They're deceptive. They're definitely not affordable to operate and own. And it's the type of vehicle that you lease brand new, and before the warranty expires, just give it back and move on to the next vehicle. All right, moving to the next question. Really great Q&A. I'm a late in life driver, started at 40 years old and didn't know much about cars. When I stumbled on your channel and have learned quite a bit, thanks. I was wondering, do you think Honda would make the Odyssey a hybrid? Okay, great question. So Honda currently does not make any hybrids for its larger vehicles, the Pilot, the Passport, or the Odyssey, and that's because Honda hasn't developed a hybrid system suited for them. They're still sticking with their proven V6 engines for their larger vehicles, and given that Honda just introduced an updated V6 engine for the current generation Pilot, I expect they're going to continue to use the 6-cylinder engine for the next Odyssey minivan. So in my opinion, I would not expect a hybrid for that vehicle in the near future, but who knows? It could happen and could surprise us, but I wouldn't be holding my hopes up for that one. Next question. What do you think about Tahoe diesel? Is it a good engine, especially the new look? Thanks. Okay, the diesel question. Now, typically, I'm not a big fan of recommending diesels because a lot of consumers just don't realize how expensive they are to repair. Yes, they do save you money in fueling costs in the long run, but oftentimes with a lot of buyers, those savings in fuel costs are replaced by spending more money in repairs. Modern diesel engines are very complicated. They have a lot of emissions control technology, and all the modern technology has really taken away from their reliability. They're not quite the same type of engines that they were 10 or 20 years ago, so they can be very problematic. Diesel repairs are always really expensive because there's fewer diesel mechanics, they're more expensive to work on, and these engines can have issues. Specifically the Duramax engine family, diesel family, they can have oil leaks, especially on the rear end with the main seal. They can have timing issues, belt issues. I have heard of a number of problems, and as I mentioned, they can be very expensive to repair. So in my opinion, to be on the safe side, I would just buy one of the GM trucks with the regular naturally aspirated V8 engine. I think in the long run, that's the safer way to go. All right, next question. What does it actually cost a car manufacturer to manufacture a car compared to the sale price? Interesting question. Now, the cost of manufacturing a car is not publicly available information, but I do know what it costs manufacturers to sell their vehicles to the dealership. This is what we call the invoice price, or the dealer cost of a vehicle. Typically, the invoice price or the dealer cost is around between 5 to 10% below the MSRP, or the retail price, which cars are listed for to the buyers. And anybody that wants to have an invoice price quote report so that they know what dealers pay for cars, that's actually something that we offer through our service with the Car Help membership. We include 3 invoice price quote reports so that you know what the dealer cost is, and you can use this information to negotiate a better price. So that's the information we have, and it can actually be a really good negotiating tool. All right, next question. Hi Shari, your videos are so helpful. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and helping people. Please let me know which family car would be very reliable, safe, and with a big trunk for a family of 3 adults and 2 toddlers in Canada. Is the Tesla Model Y a wise choice? Okay, pretty big size family, 3 adults and 2 toddlers. So you're going to need a 5-seater vehicle, maybe even a 3-row vehicle. The Model Y is not a bad way to go if you get one with the 3rd row of seats. They're very popular, and yeah, definitely not a bad choice there. If you want something that's going to save you money in fueling costs in the long run, I'd say that my #1 choice would be a Toyota Highlander, ideally the hybrid version, which is a very fuel efficient vehicle. Excellent if you want something that's a little bit electrified. Something similar to that would be the Mazda CX-90, specifically the plug-in hybrid. Excellent 3-row SUV, lots of space, perfect for a large family. And because it's a plug-in hybrid, you can run it on electric power just like the Tesla, but it still has that gas engine there as a backup. And Mazda makes very good quality vehicles, so I'd say that one is a safe bet as well. So those would be my recommendations. And now for the next question. Hi, I would like to know if I'm eligible for compensation if my car that I ordered is late over 6 months. So obviously a very common phenomenon during the car shortage, which is still going on across Canada, is a dealership will tell you that your car is going to arrive within a certain window of time, and then surprise, surprise, it doesn't happen. The waiting period ends up being a lot longer than you were told. Are you eligible for compensation? The short answer is no. No, you're not. There's no guarantees with anything. When you order a car, you need to be flexible and be prepared for a longer waiting period, because the truth is that even the dealerships don't always know exactly how long it's going to take. Now, if you really want to have your vehicle by a specific time, a specific date, you need to put that information on the contract as a condition of sale so that you have a way of getting out of the deal, or perhaps being compensated if the dealership breaks that condition. So I always tell consumers, if you need a vehicle by a certain time, make sure you put the delivery date on the contract. So great questions. As I mentioned, if you want to have your question answered in a future Q&A video, just leave your question in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer the questions first come, first serve, because these questions are really starting to pile up. I guess a lot of you really enjoy these Q&As. I really hope this information is useful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.